Hare Krishna, today we will start chapter 9, verses 1 to 10. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Idam Tute Goyatamam Pravaksham Nana Suyave Yana Vijana Saitam Yatsyatva Moksaye Subhat. Translation and purport by Abhayacharya Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjun, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence." Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamini Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachai Desatarani Srila Prabhupada Ki. So, in the previous chapter, in chapter 8, we have heard how the pure devotee, the Ananya Bhakta, surpasses the Jnani, the Yogi, the Karma Yogi, that he surpasses them all. And now Krishna gives us the most confidential knowledge. What is this most confidential knowledge? In this chapter, Krishna will explain how to become such an Ananya Bhakta, a pure devotee. How to become a pure devotee. Just for your information, if I speak directly in the mic, my recording is unclear. So there is a problem here. But we try to solve it in that way, that I'm speaking close to the mic here, that everyone can hear the recording. Otherwise the recording is spoiled. So yes, chapter 9 brings us the most confidential knowledge. It describes pure, unalloyed devotion to Krishna. Now, Krishna is explaining how to become such an Ananya devotee. And the first step in this verse we hear is hearing about Krishna and be a non-envious person. So, in this verse, because the first verse and the second has a long purport, and we will read the most essential things. As a devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. And the messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed among devotees. So, this knowledge must become realized knowledge. So So the Lord understands the mentality and sincerity of a particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and gives him the intelligence to understand the signs of Krishna in the association of devotees. Association of devotees. We can understand it in the association of devotees. So the 9th chapter is called the most confidential chapter, that and everyone who understands how to engage oneself in pure devotional service by studying this 9th chapter, he will become a liberated person. Now, Srila Prabhupada comments that, let's see. Let me go a little back, the second last. Yeah, I cannot speak in the mic because then my recording is spoiled.
You cannot put on the side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's that. So now this first verse in the purport, this first verse has specific significance. The words idam jnanam, this knowledge, refer to pure devotional service, which consists of 9 activities: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. So these are the practices that we have to do. That worshipping, we worship the deity, we should do every day. We are hearing the Bhagavad Gita, or hearing the holy name. We are chanting the Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. We are chanting the holy name. While doing that, we should remember Krishna. Then we should do service. Srila Prabhupada gave us this movement to do service, worshipping the deities. We should pray to Krishna and maintain friendship with him and surrendering everything to him. That should be the result that of our practice, that we finally surrender everything to Krishna, Atman Nivedanam. By the practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to the spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. So that means we should follow the program Srila Prabhupada gave us. Prabhupada wanted all of us to follow the morning and evening program and do service during the day. And all these 9, they are included. That they're all there. So simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. Srila Prabhupada writes that, where it is here on the screen. Anyway, simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. So that means that Bhagavad Gita is practical knowledge, how to act as a spirit soul in relation to Krishna. That Shiveras Svarupahoy, Krishna Nitya Das. We are the eternal servant of Krishna. And this is the practice. That so one should recognize the difference between activities of the body and the spiritual activities of one who understands he is not the body. Practical activities. And in the last paragraph, there Srila Prabhupada speaks about this word anasuya ve. And he says this is very important, very significant. That so no one can explain Bhagavad Gita or give perfect knowledge of Krishna if he's envious of Krishna. If someone knows, I know Bhagavad Gita, that's not a good sign. You never know Bhagavad Gita. It's unlimited. That it means one tries to take credit. I know Bhagavad Gita. So for one who understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pure and transcendental personality, these chapters will be very beneficial. So accepting Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada said in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita, one should at least accept theoretically that Krishna is God. And now, in the next verse, this knowledge will be glorified. So let's recap what is in this first verse. It's the most confidential knowledge because why? It describes pure devotional service, which consists of 9 activities. And second, to understand this knowledge, one must be a non-envious person, and one has to hear it in association of devotees. That a devotee who tries to assimilate such potent discussions will make advancement. So that's a process. We hear, we think how to practice this, we inquire, and then we practice. There should be a result. If that result is not there, the practice is wrong, there is something wrong. You must inquire again go to the process until you make advancement. So Krishna sees the sincerity of the one who wants to study Bhagavad Gita and gives intelligence to understand the science of Krishna. It's never on our own accord that we understand Krishna. Understanding is given by Krishna. Yes. Yeah.
How do I know that I'm not envious of?
The first point here is why did we get this material body? We got this material body because we were envious of Krishna. So this body is a sign. It's sign I'm envious of Krishna. And envious of Krishna, it's go back to the principle Bhaktam Sachatarpasam Sarvalokamashram Srudam Sarvabhutanam Khatramam Santamritsanti. So envious means someone has something, and I feel sorry for that. I want that also. So Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. We want to enjoy envy. Krishna is a proprietor. We say this is mine. Envy of Krishna. So this is an important. This is very deeply rooted. This I and mine in our being. To be non-envious. We attain that stage when we are free from material desires. Every material desire is material desire means this I and mine. That as long as we have these material desires, we are in trouble. So if we have a pure heart, we are not envious anymore. But if there are material desires, there is envy. Material desires, the basis of the material desire is envy.
That's very clear.
Yeah, I'm trying my best. Yes. Oh, you have that gross and subtle. Madhavendra Puri, he was a pure soul. But when it came to Ramuna, and he came before the Gopinath deity in Ramuna. Then he saw that the pujaris were offering 10 pots every day of kheer to the deity. And this kheer is famous, very sweet, that very tasty. And he was thinking, how would it was before the deities, and he was thinking, how would it taste? That I would like to taste it because I want to make the same preparations for my deity, Gopal. He was thinking like that. And then he felt embarrassed. He said, what a fool am I? I'm here before the deities and I'm thinking of tasting this kheer, and the offering is not yet finished. And he left the temple, went far away under a tree, and he was repenting. Why am I so foolish? That it's an offense to think I want to enjoy this. And he was thinking that only to prepare the same preparation for his Gopal, not for himself. So it was in principle not an offense. But by that we can understand, even subtle, how far this goes. So that is deep-rooted. Okay, text 2. Text 2 glorifies this knowledge of pure devotional service, which is described in the chapter. Raja Vidya Raja Goyam Pavitam Idam Uttamam Paksham Pratyaksha Parandarmyam Susukam Kartum Apyayam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. So this is a very long purport, one of the longest purports in the Gita. And Srila Prabhupada speaks about each of these terms in the purport. And we will read a few sentences here and there. Forgive me, I may not find them here on the screen. If I have to find every line, then I lose a lot of time and it's not practical. But this is in the first chapter. It is the most confidential knowledge because confidential or transcendental knowledge involves understanding the difference between the soul and the body. That is a first level of confidentiality, understanding the difference between the soul and the body. How many people in this world understand this? Very few, very few. If you speak them about what is the origin of your consciousness, where does your consciousness come from? And many scientists say, oh, at a certain time it manifests. It manifests from matter. And there was such a scientist who wrote a thesis on it, and he claimed consciousness appears from chemicals at a certain time. And Bhakti Svarup Damodar, Dr. Bhakti Svarup Damodar said yes. He challenged this scientist and said, if I give you the chemicals, can you make revive the consciousness, create consciousness? And he said, that we cannot do. Post-dated check. So they cannot explain the origin of consciousness. And that is really an issue. And if you cannot explain the oceans of consciousness, you cannot understand the difference between soul and body. That we understand a dead body minus a living body minus consciousness is a dead body. That someone dies, but all the chemicals are still there. What's missing? They cannot explain that, and that means ignorance. If you cannot explain who you are, everything what you do in life is wrong. That you can have many, many zeros, and you add zeros, it will not help. There must be a 1 in front of the zeros, of the many zeros. Then it becomes a big figure. That it's useless. So, but that's confidential. All we have learned, 4 kinds who do not surrender to Krishna. And one is the Maya Paritagyan. All these universities, they are places of ignorance. Avidyalaya. That's what they are. That places of ignorance. That and so Prabhupada writes, unfortunately, no university or educational institution where the science of the soul is instructed. They don't have it. Today we are changing them. We are changing that. We are creating universities now where this is taught. Still, people are placing great stress on the bodily necessities of life, not caring for the vital soul. How can the soul, which is so active within the body, be active after being inactive after being liberated from the body? It is always active. These activities of the spirit soul are therefore indicated here as constituting the king of all knowledge, the most confidential part of all knowledge. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities are entangled in different stages and forms of sinful reaction. So then Srila Prabhupada speaks about sinful reactions. One performs a sinful reaction, it's like a seed that is fructifying, that some reactions are in seed form, some are already fructifying, that we will learn in Nectar of Devotion, that the cycle of sin, abrapta karma, that will be instructed by Rupa Goswami. But it's also here in the purport. Aparabda phalam papam kutam bijam phalamukam kamanai vaipaliyate Vishnu Bhakti ratatmanam. Like, I give always these examples that I have heard from authorities. Someone is a drunkard, and it's Saturday evening, and he's getting drunk. And the next morning he has a hangover. He's sick. He gets the reaction. His sinful action, he gets the reaction. He's sick. That's parabdha karma. But he gets also aparabdha karma. Reaction which is not yet manifested. If he keeps on drinking like that, then in the not so distant future, his liver will be ruined. That's aparabdha karma. It's in the making. And on Sunday morning he's sick, he has a hangover. So he thinks, yesterday I had a good time. So he remembers and he thinks I had a good time. That's the bija, that's the seed for his next sinful activity. And then when he's cured, he's okay. Next day, the headache is over, everything is okay. Then kutam, the desire to do it again comes. And that is the cycle of repeated sin that one does the sinful act, papam, and then one gets parabdha karma, he's sick. Aparabdha karma, in a few years, he will die from a liver disease because of drinking. And then he thinks, oh, I had a good time yesterday. The bija, the seed for the next sinful activities, is born. And when he's cured, when he feels good again, kutam, the desire to do it again. And he does it the next week again. So that's this cycle of sin that which is described here. That yeah, but this knowledge is pavitram uttamam. It's the purest, and the potency of devotional service is so strong that it will destroy the seed of sinful activities. It will destroy it. That so in course of chanting without offenses, one feels transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination. That's an important point. We have to chant without offenses, with the proper attitude. Proper attitude. Rinata pisnechanata oramesha isne amanamana dinakirtanias dari nadanam lachamna sundrim kavtavachi shakamai mama chanmani chamamishvay bhavta bhakti haitaki trai. That's the right attitude. Being humble, tolerant, give all honor to others, not asking honor for oneself. Don't want wealth, don't want followers, don't want wealth, just wanting the pure devotional service to Krishna, birth after birth, even not asking liberation, just out of love, wanting to serve Krishna. That is the proper attitude. And that's without offenses, if one comes to that. But what prevents us? Offenses. We don't follow the instructions of the spiritual master. We think the holy name, the potencies of the holy name are exaggeration. Or I can chant and still enjoy material life and be Krishna conscious at the same time. Then that, or yeah, of one thinking, yes, that or an inappropriate attitude towards devotees. Yes, very dangerous, these things. If we overcome these offenses, we chant purely, with the pure intention, then susukam kartum avyam. You will feel happy. That's the test. If you perform devotional service and you feel not happy, something is wrong, sir. But if you perform it nicely, you will experience Krishna consciousness. You will experience the presence of Krishna. It's direct experience, not on the sensual platform, on the spiritual platform. So that's this advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous education of qualification. mostly the so-called previous education is an obstacle. Is this someone went to a musician to learn how to play violin, and the music master said, okay, what did you know already? And the student said, I don't anything. I don't know anything. Oh, he said, okay, 50 rupees an hour. And then the next came and asked the same question, can you teach me violin? And the man said, and the student said, yeah, I learned some things about myself. I know something. Well, the master said, I can teach you 100 rupees an hour. So why 100 rupees? Because the things he had learned wrongly, he has to dislearn, and then learn the right thing. So yeah, it doesn't depend on any previous education or qualification. But if you have studied Bhagavad Gita in an impersonal way, and then you have to study it from the perspective of Bhakti, Bhakti is very difficult, very difficult. You have these preconceptions in your mind that mostly this previous education means education from a human perspective. But Bhagavad Gita is aparuseya, it's not from humans. It comes from Krishna himself. So devotional service is so potent that simply by engaging in the activities of devotional service, one becomes enlightened without a doubt. And then he speaks about Narada Muni and the whole story of his previous life. And this story we find in the first canto. Narada Muni will speak about his previous life to Srila Vyasadeva to explain him the potency of bhakti. Yes, Narada Muni, he was the son of a maidservant. In his previous life, his name was Upabarna. He was a Gandharva, very beautiful. But he was a very beautiful singer, a pop star. And many of the female Gandharvas, he had a whole following. And he was famous for his cinema songs. Prabhupada says cinema songs. He was glorifying the demigods. So once they went to a Kirtan festival organized by great sages. And at that Kirtan festival, he was singing his cinema songs, glorifying the demigods. And the demigods became angry and cursed him. You will become a Sudra in your next life. And he became the son of a maidservant. But then his mother was serving great Bhakti Vedantas who were discussing the Bhagavatam during Chaturmasya. We are in Chaturmasya now. It rained yesterday, Chaturmasya. And yes, then you cannot travel. The sages cannot travel. So they stayed 4 months there. And he was hearing every day the Bhagavatam from them. And after 4 months of hearing, he got initiation. And the sages left. And he became very sober. He was 5 years old. He was not behaving like the other children who wanted to play. He was sober, self-controlled. And then, of course, we know that his mother was going to milk a cow in the middle of the night one day. Can you imagine? In the middle of the night, who is doing that? Anyway, she did. And she was bitten by a cobra. And she left her body. And little Narada immediately understood, this is the hand of Krishna. he makes me free from this family attachment. And he performed the rituals, and then he was walking towards the north, and so many descriptions in the Bhagavatam where he came to, but he chanted constantly Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And then he became purified, and at the end, he went back to God. Well, he got his spiritual body. So that's, but the process was hearing from the sages and tasting their, and taking their remnants of their prasad. So by hearing with the sages, Narada got the taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord and developed a great desire for devotional service. So therefore, it is described in the Vedanta Sutra, Pakasha Karmana Abhyasat. If one is engaged simply in the acts of devotional service, everything is revealed to him automatically. And he can understand this. This is called Pratyaksha, directly perceived. Yeah. Everything is revealed to the heart and directly perceived. So the highest goal of all religion is devotional service. The process of devotional service is a very happy one, susukam. So this susukam is important. Like I said before, if you are not happy or satisfied in your devotional service, there's something wrong, and mostly it's wrong with the motivation. You have material expectations. If you act purely without envy, just to please Krishna, then you must feel satisfied. That is a law that, so otherwise one must see what's wrong. But this practice of devotional service is the highest principle of religion. Dharma. Dharma, Srila Prabhupada explains, is what cannot be changed. Water is wet, right? Sugar is sweet. If it's not sweet, it's not sugar. So what is the dharma of the living entity? Savai pamso pumso paro dharmo yato bhaktiradoxia ahait kapatiyata yatma suprashidati. Yatma suprashidasti. It makes the atma suprashidati very, very satisfied, very happy. But there are two conditions. That this is the occupation for all mankind. Devotional service to Adoksaya, the one who is not known, who cannot be known by the material senses. But that service to Krishna must have two qualities: ahaituk, apatiyata. Ahaituk, no material motivation, just to please him. Apatiyata, it's not a part-time job, always. One must do it always, not interrupt. Whatever you do, yat karus, yat asyas, yat yurios, tadasya, you do it for the pleasure of Krishna. So God accepts only the love with which things are offered. Our chanting is an offering to Krishna. You should do it with love, affection. Then at the end, this is the last paragraph. As will be seen, As will be seen in Bhagavad Gita, actual devotional service begins after liberation. So before liberation, 5 stages. First, sadhu sangha, you associate with devotees. No, first Shraddha, you have faith. You come to hear to a Sunday feast program, you hear from a Swami and you think, maybe that makes sense. If you get a Bhagavad Gita, you start to read it. Okay, some faith is there, Shraddha. And then Sadhu Sangha. You associate with devotees and learn from them the science how to practice devotional service. Then Bhajana Kriya, you practice it. In the beginning, the practice of Bhajana Kriya is anishtita, is not steady. But then later you come to 16 rounds and attending every day Mangalarti and so on. You become steady, it becomes nishtita. And when it becomes nishtita, then we must give up the offenses, the offensive mentality. And that should be done by hearing the Bhagavatam every day. Clearly, we give up this. We start to understand what pure devotional service is. Just by this Bhakti Sastra study, you don't understand really what's pure devotional service. You must study the Bhagavatam. There is a practice. What does it mean in practice? That by studying the Bhagavatam and you continue chanting, you come to anartha nivritti. Because you get rid of the offenses gradually. And then the heart becomes purified. And when all material desires are gone, you are becoming non-envious. That's liberation. And there, because of these material desires, you cannot think of Krishna with love, because always all the other desires come and take away your mind. It takes away your mind. Cetasa, yeah. Tayaparita cetasam. If you have material desires, it disturbs the mind. But then the mind becomes peaceful. And then when the mind is peaceful, you can give your attention. And after you give your attention, you give your love. And that's the real thing. And that begins after liberation. But before liberation, we perform devotional service to purify our heart on the instruction of the spiritual master, and Krishna accepts that service, and that gives satisfaction to the heart if we do it with the right inner attitude, and then it comes susukam kartam avdiyam, even in the beginning. But after that, after liberation, if we serve Krishna, it becomes ecstatic. And it's always very, very happy. So this is the process of devotional service. At the end, this is the process of devotional service of Krishna consciousness. It's the king of all education and the king of all confidential knowledge. It's the purest form of religion, and it can be executed joyfully without difficulty. So in this purport, we learned four things we must remember. Pure Bhakti is the king of education because it gets the essence of all knowledge of the studies of the Vedas. That all the essence of all the Vedas and different Vedic philosophies is to act as a spirit soul. Shivera Svruba Hoy. Nitya Krishna Das. So devotional service is the perfection of religion, because one can practically perceive how one is making advancement. The realization does not depend on scholarship of being born as in a Brahmin family or so on. No. In every stage of devotional service, the practice is joyful. For example, eating prasad, we can make progress. It's joyful. Devotional service is eternally existing, even after liberation. Mayavadis think devotional service is useful up to the point of liberation. And then I become one with God. That's what they think. So actual devotional service begins after liberation. That's what all the residents in the spiritual world do, devotional service. That's their activity. That's the activity of the soul. And when one is situated on the Brahman platform, then it becomes spontaneous. Good. That was a whole thing. Yes.
But is it possible that we obtain the liberation kind of consciousness still within the body?
That's Nicholas Mukta. If one uses one body, mind, words, all one's convictions in the service of Krishna always, one is called a Jivan Mukta, liberated in this body. I'm going to try to demonstrate that by the example of our Srila Prabhupada. That one who is on that platform does not suffer anymore. Because there's no identification with the body, but with the spiritual body. At the end of August 1977, Srila Prabhupada, he had been very sick. My Gurumats was serving him, but he became better. And he decided at once to go to America. So he took a flight to London. But when he came in London at the Bhaktivedanta Manor, he became very sick again. And you see this picture of Prabhupada, he takes darshan of the deities in a palanquin with big glasses on. You have seen that film? Bhaktivedanta Manor? Yeah. And he was lying the whole day in bed. And the devotee asked Prabhupada, are you suffering? Prabhupada replied, I don't feel anything. That is Shiva Nukta. I don't feel anything. That is. Yeah. The body becomes like, when like a drunken man, is not aware he has a material body anymore. This is of course, these are higher realizations, but that is Shiva Nukta. Then that means the subtle body, mind and intelligence are completely purified. They are spiritualized. So the spiritual body is active. And then the mind is not a different thing anymore. Anyway, point 3. But now Krishna warns, faith is important. If you don't have faith, what happens? Ashadadana Purusha Dharmasya Parantapa Aprapya Mam Nipastante Mrityu Samsari Vahmani. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me or conquer of enemy. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, first line, faith is created by association with devotees. It's in this purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, faith is a complete conviction that simply by serving the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, one can attain all perfection. Good question for your exam. What is Srila Prabhupada's definition of faith in verse 9.3 of Bhagavad Gita? I'll say again, faith is a complete conviction that simply by serving the Supreme Lord, one can attain all perfection. The development of that faith is the process of Krishna consciousness. It's explained in Nectar of Instruction, but also in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that the difference between 3 stages of devotees, the beginner, the Uttam Adhikar, the Madhyam Adhikar, who is halfway devotional service, and the Uttam Adhikar, who is the highest. So it is said that the Kanishta Adhikar, the beginner, or the Prakriti Bhakta also called, that his faith is very low and he has practically no knowledge. And because his faith is slow and he has not much knowledge, he makes offenses towards others devotees, to other devotees, because he does not behave properly. He does not know, because he does not know who is advanced and who is not advanced. So that is a dangerous position. We must learn who is advanced, who is not advanced. It's not a guru with many disciples that by definition that is advanced. No, a very simple devotee can be advanced. And we have to learn to recognize that. Who is advanced and not advanced? The symptoms of advancement are described in Bhagavad Gita. That Krishna in the second chapter was asking to the what are the symptoms of a stitaprajna when we're situated in devotional service study. And Krishna says, gives many points mentioned. He has given up manogatam. He has given up the concoction of the mind. And what are these concoctions? Material desires. And of course, Krishna says much more there, but then in the 12th chapter, verses 14 till 20 is a whole list of spiritual qualities. Then we have in the 14th chapter, 20 to 25 or something, because Arjuna is asking what are the symptoms of one who has transcended the modes of nature, and Krishna gives all the symptoms. And then he gives also in the 13th chapter, we will hear from verses 8 to 12, all the symptoms of one who is situated in knowledge on the path of that, who is advanced in devotional service. So this we have to learn who is advanced, who is not advanced. Otherwise, we are in a dangerous position. If you don't have knowledge of devotional service, we are in a dangerous position. And then you have the Madhyamadikar. He has knowledge. His knowledge is not perfect, but he has great faith. And he sees 5 categories: the Lord, the devotee, the innocent, and the demoniac. And you have 4 different relationships with them. With the Lord, he serves the Lord out of love. He wants to give his love. He wants to serve the devotees and make friendship with the devotees. And he is preaching to the innocent, those who are not envious of Krishna. And he avoids the envious, those who are against Krishna. And then you have the Uttam. Uttamadikari is great knowledge, perfect knowledge, and the highest faith. So that's a difference. But the faithless cannot accomplish this process of devotional service. Because they don't have faith, they cannot stay fixed in devotional service. Many come to our movement with hidden motives, but as soon as their material desire is fulfilled, they give up devotional service. That I heard from devotees in America, from devotees from India, they come to serve here. And they are serving until the day that they had the green card. And then they disappear. The day itself, they disappear. They are driving away from the temple with the car. Finished. So that is hidden motive. And as soon as their material desire is fulfilled, they give up devotional service. So they are in the category of 3rd class devotees. So that is described here in the purport. And then text 4. So we are going slow here. That because there's so much to say on these verses. But in this verse 3, this verse from the fourth canto is explained. Yatato mulanisheshanena tepyanta taskanta biopasaka panoparakshayatendriyanam tataiv savarnamasitya. By giving water to the root of a tree, one satisfies its branches, twigs, and leaves. And by supplying food to the stomach, one satisfies all the senses of the body. Similarly, by engaging in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, one automatically satisfies all the demigods and all other living entities. Therefore, after reading Bhagavad Gita, one should probably come to the conclusion one should give up all other engagement and adopt the service of the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only the service of the Lord. Yeah. Then you get a higher taste when you come up to that conclusion that we should only serve the Supreme Lord and everything, and the devotee is only interested in everything related to the Lord. I've seen many devotees, they come to the movement, we get Prabhupada's books and all other books out. No interest anymore. Out. That's no taste anymore. That text 4. Maya tatam midam sarvam sagatavyakta muktina atstani sarva bhutani natcham pesh avastita. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I'm not in them. Now, Krishna speaks about himself here. And this 9.4 and 9.5 describes factually the Asintya Bheda Bheda Tattva philosophy of Lord Chaitanya. We are one and different with the Lord at the same time. But first, in my unmanifested form, the entire universe is pervaded. So Krishna says, I pervade the entire universe, like consciousness, the body, he pervades the entire universe. But he pervades the entire universe as a super soul, but not as Bhagavan. So I'm as Bhagavan, I'm not in them. But I pervade everything as a super soul and as my energies. Let's see here that. So although Krishna is all pervading within the creation by his energies, and although he's resting in those energies, Krishna is not perceivable to our gross material senses. We cannot see Krishna with our senses, but we can see Krishna through transcendental knowledge. We can see Krishna through the practice of devotional service, pratyaksha paranam dharmam. We will start to experience his presence. So one who has developed a loving attitude towards Krishna by performing devotional service can also see him within himself and outside. So one time I gave a lecture on, many years ago, and Prahlad Nanmach was there. He gave a lecture on how to perceive the super soul within the heart. And Prahlad Nanmach, after the lecture, said, do you think Krishna is only in your heart? He's also outside. So he's also in every atom. Like you see that a wooden table, the wood has a certain color, a certain structure, a certain warmth, that it's the super soul within who gives that, who is the source of that. If one goes deep. They found the DNA much deeper in the cell structure, and then the cell structure they found in every cell of fabric anyway. But if you go deeper, then you see there are waves, kind of waves that's all done by the supercell. And so Krishna gives this wood a certain structure already from the time it was growing in the plant. It's Krishna doing that. Krishna says, I'm the seed of existence, the seed of existence. So you have a lemon tree. The lemon growth is like chemicals, but it's produced by the supercell, by the supercell, by the power of the supercell and the intelligence of the supercell. It's extracted from the earth, and it follows an intelligent plan to form a lemon and so on. That requires a lot of intelligence and organization. And the supercell is doing that. So we can see that also outside every moment. The supercell acting in everything we see, not only in the taste of water or the light of the sun. Yes.
Maharaj, the materialists would counter this argument. They would say that the lemon juice and the orange juice and the mango juice is not because of the superstore, but because of different DNA configuration of each plant. How do you guys counter that?
Yeah, the supercell is a source of the DNA. Where's the DNA coming from?
So the superstore is also the DNA.
Yeah, sure. Everything. But DNA is one level. You can even go deeper than the DNA. It's unlimited in that direction. That unlimited potency is Krishna. They can say DNA, but where does the DNA come from? From nothing. You can start someone in the middle and say from here, and the rest counts, and not before. It's craziness. Their knowledge is incomplete, and they have always to admit that they come always to a point they cannot explain. Always we are limited in that sense.
Also, Maharaj, you see function of a cell, you see that all the functions are conscious, but a single function is unconscious.
Yeah, that's so.
And yet not recognized by the scientific community. They consider it as an automatic action instead of a conscious action.
Yeah, but automatic does not exist. Nothing is automatic in this world. There's always intelligence behind. It's foolishness. So they are not scientists, they are fools. That's what they are. But they don't recognize it, that they are fools. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Yeah.
And what is that? This means all things are in me. How are we in him?
Because Krishna, that is something which is inconceivable for us. Krishna is everything, is the universe, everything. He's everything. At the same time, he's a person. But he's everything. So everything is in Krishna. There's nothing which is not Krishna. Yeah, the Brahman is all the evolutions of Krishna. Yeah. It's always like he said in 7576 that Maya Tatamidam Savam. Yeah, so it means that Kuna Maya, yeah. Anyway, everything rests on me as spurs on a thread. So Behind is always Krishna. You don't see him, but he's always there. So yeah, impersonalists argue that God is all-pervading. He has lost his personal existence. To refute this, Krishna says, I'm everywhere and everything is in me, but I'm aloof. So that's the point. That's what they say. Krishna, God, is not there anymore. He lost him. He divided himself in all his energies and he's lost. That's what they say. But Krishna says, yeah, no. There is another mathematics on the spiritual platform. Om Purnamidam Purnamidam. You will learn that in the invocation of Shisha Upanishad. For me emanates so many complete entities that although so many complete entities are emanating from me, that I remain complete. So that's illogical from the point of the material laws, illogical. So the scientists say that's illogical. No, it cannot be like that because these are the laws. But who makes the laws? Krishna. Is he under these laws? Is he makes the laws? No, it's translogical. Translogical. And that's the problem. That we don't have the brain to understand this. That is transcendental logic. And we don't have the brains. The brain's made of matter. With matter, you cannot understand transcendental subject matter. Therefore, transcendental knowledge is Tene Brahmaridaya Adakavaye, is given to the heart, directly to the soul. Krishna gives the knowledge and in the form of realization. Tesam He removes the ignorance and gives us realization on the spiritual platform. And that is mystical. It's not, Bhagavad Gita is not understood by the brain, but by the heart, just by the soul. And that's different knowledge. Therefore, if we try to understand this knowledge by our brain, we get in short circuit. It doesn't work. But it has, Krishna will explain in the 10th chapter. Good. A lot to say. We're going to the next verse, 5. Nasamatstani bhutni pasyame yogam ashvaram putabrinna sabutastu mamatma bhuva bhavana. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I'm the maintainer of all living entities and I'm everywhere, I'm not part of this cosmic manifestation. For myself is the very source of the creation. So it said, everything is situated in Krishna's energies. First point. It's not personally connected with these creations. It are his energies. That material energies is separate energy. So therefore, Krishna is Yogam Ashvaram. Is that this is mystic opulence. Mystic opulence means it's mystic. We cannot understand it with our logic. Mystic. So Krishna is full of all potent energies. Simply by his will, everything is performed. He does not touch this material creation. Personally does not touch. It's done by his energies. So if we read this, although I'm the maintainer of all living entities, and although I'm everywhere, I'm not part of this cosmic manifestation. So this maintaining of all living entities and being everywhere is done by his energies and by his Paramatma feature. But as Bhagavan, I'm not involved, Krishna says. So this is what Krishna is saying here. This text 5. Yes. So the Lord is not directly concerned with the maintenance and sustenance of this material manifestation. The planetary systems, a little further, are floating in space. And this space is the energy of the Supreme Personality, the Supreme Lord, but is different from them. So this is the inconceivable opulence of the Lord. Inconceivable. We cannot conceive it. Simply by His supreme will, everything is created, everything is sustained at the end, and everything is annihilated. So there is no difference between his mind and himself, as there is a difference between ourselves and our present material mind, because he is absolute spirit. He is different from this material manifestation, and yet everything is resting in him. This is explained as Yogam Aishvaram, mystic power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's the source. It comes all from the source manifested, but it does not change the source, because the source remains complete and aloof from it. So that is what Krishna is saying here. Text 6, yes?
It's not being entirely truthful here. The super soul and Krishna, there is no difference. So how can you say that I'm not there yet?
It's different and non-different. The super soul is the realization of his qualities, stat and chit, but Ananda is not there. It's not completely manifest. Bhagavan means Sat Chit Ananda. Krishna is always happy, always. You never see where he's lamenting or under the illusion of his own internal potency. He may lament sometimes for the pastime, but he's always happy. So yata kaso stito nityam vayu sarvatago mahan tata sarvani bhutani matstanit upadaraya. Understand that as a mighty wind blowing everywhere, rest always in the sky. All created beings rest in me, he says. 9.6. 9.6. For the ordinary person, it is almost inconceivable how the huge creation is resting in him, but the Lord is giving an example which may help us to understand. The sky may be the biggest manifestation we can conceive. But although the wind is great, it is still situated within the sky. Further, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the end, so from the Vedic literature, we can find evidence that this material manifestation, which appears to us very wonderful and great, is under the complete control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is 6, 7. Sarva Bhutani Kauntya Prakatim Yanti Mamakam Kalpakshai Panastani Kalpadavitityamyam. The son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, all material manifestation enter into my nature, and at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I create again. So we have, it does that to Lord Brahma. We have heard about that. Further, when there is a need to manifest the cosmic world, it is done by his will. Bhaushyam, just by his will, and it happens. That Brahma creates. 8. Prakritim Svamvastabhya Vitichami Puna Puna Bhutakramandam Krishnam Avasam Prakati Vasat. The whole cosmic order is under me, under my will, it is automatically manifested, and again, under my will, it is annihilated. So, after creating different species of life to accommodate the desires of the living entity, we get a body according to our desire and what we deserve. That the Lord becomes not further involved in the creation. Simply by his will, creation, annihilation, it's going on. Then 9. Here an analogy is given. Na samam tan karmani nibanant nitanja udasina vadashinam asaktam tesh karmasyam. Udananjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I'm ever detached from all these material activities, seeking as the neutral. That's 9. There's an analogy here in 9. The analogy of the High Court judge. It's in the middle. The example can be given of a High Court judge sitting on his bench. By his order, so many things are happening. Someone is being hanged, someone is being put into jail, someone is awarded a huge amount of wealth, but still he is neutral. That he has nothing to do with all that gain and loss. So Krishna is like that. As a super soul, he gives you the reactions that you deserve. And yeah, he's neutral. That we will hear that at the end, 9:29, Krishna will say, as a super soul, I'm neutral to all people, but to my devotee, I'm different. I'm the friend to my devotee, we will hear. And then the last one, and that's an important verse, Maya Dakshina Prakati Chutisha Chachajna, 8-9 Akantya Chatripari Vartati. This material nature is one of mine is working under my direction as of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So Krishna says here, under my rule, this material nature is working. I control material nature. We think ourselves the controllers of material nature and of this body. But Krishna says, no, I'm the controller. That the Supreme Lord is the supreme will and the background of this material manifestation. But the management is being conducted by material nature. That it's like this, yeah. This example is given in the Smriti. When there is a pregnant flower before someone, the fragrance is touched by the smelling power of the person, yet the smelling and the flower are detached from each other. There is a similar connection between the material world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, he has nothing to do with the material world, but he creates by his glance and ordains. In summary, material nature without the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot do anything. That's the point. That all functions of material nature happen through the agency of material nature, which acts under the Lord's will. By this arrangement, the Lord is always in control, although not directly to the activities of creation. Much more to say, but we have a pause now till 12:30. After the pause, yeah, 12:30. We resume, reconvene. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So we will continue before the break. There were 2 questions and we will take these 2 questions. You can start, yeah. What's your name again?
My name is Alvani.
Alvani, okay. Alvani, what's your question?
So I'm confused about question number text 5. It says, and yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence, although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I'm everywhere, I'm not a part of this cosmic manifestation. So it's confused about this sign.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, what I said is you cannot understand it with your logic and your brain. You cannot understand it with logic or with your brain. So is it surprising that you are confused? But it means, yeah, Krishna says this manifestation is in me. Everything is situated in my energy. But it's my energy. That's not me. It's my energy. Me as Bhagavan, I'm different. But even that we cannot understand because we don't have an experience of such a person. This is God, His unlimited potency. Is that okay?
yeah, it is his energy, but his even the three modes material energy is also his energy, right?
Yeah.
So it is his energy. So
Is
let's say it is not
Yeah.
him.
It's not him. That is my energy. And it's my expansion. Paramatma takes care of that.
Okay.
And it are my energies. But it's not me, Bhagavan.
His expansion. Okay.
Yeah. His expansions and his energies, they cooperate. Because the expansion is a super soul, controls its energies. That my other excellent faculty. Inconceivable. And the second question was Kelly Mataji. Do I pronounce your name right, Kelly? Yeah, okay. Please. Okay. Krishna solved it, good. But nice cooperation. 11. We continue with the next session. Now in the next session, Krishna is going to speak about impersonalists, which he's going to call Mudas. He's going to speak about demigod worshippers and those who worship the universal form and those who meditate on a Vishvarup. And he compares them to his pure devotees. So text 9:11. Avajananti mamu damanushimtanam ashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhutama ishvam. Fools write me when I descend in the human form, they do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. They deride my human form, Krishna says. That so it's a long purport because Prabhupada made so many corners of that, but the first thing he made, Krishna is not a common man in the purport. The Lord Krishna conducts the creation, the maintenance and annihilation of the cosmic manifestation. To control something like that, it's not an ordinary being, human being. So Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has a body made of Sat Chit Ananda. He's transcendental. He's full of bliss and knowledge. He's the proprietor of everything, and he can award liberation of everyone. So if he controls everything, and he alone can give you liberation. So the only way to get liberation is that when Krishna gives you liberation. He controls the material nature. He can make you free from the modes of material nature. But Buddhas, foolish persons, they cannot conceive how Krishna who possesses a human-like form, can simultaneously control the infinite and the finite. Actually, Krishna is controlling everything. Yet he is remaining aloof from this manifestation. This material energy is under his control, and anyone who surrenders unto him can get free from the influence of the material energy. So, how can we have a material body made of material nature? It's Krishna who arranges that. So the Mayavadis, they want to prove that Krishna is an ordinary man. And therefore they quote the Bhagavatam, the Supreme is present in every living being. So Krishna is in every living being. He cannot be a person. He has spread himself out, he's in every living being. But Shiva Goswami, he gives the correct understanding. It is Paramatma in everyone's heart, is Krishna's expansion. And because he's in everyone's heart, we should offer respect to all living entities whose bodies are the temple of the Lord. So there are many quotes here. We don't have the time to go over them, but I will send a file to you, and you can read them on your own time, all the quotes. Is that a good idea? Good. So, someone wants to read this quote on the Mudas.
You accept God as man, you accept man as God. This is Rasa. You can understand who is an intelligent man and who is a Rasa by this criteria. In another place, Krishna says, Namam Duskritino Muda Prapatita. Muda says, they do not surrender. Krishna is careless. But the Muda will not accept it. Our Jananti Mam, why should I accept Krishna? I have made my own God. So we have a very clear criteria to understand a Rasa and an intelligent man. If he is a devotee of Krishna, then he is an intelligent man. If he is not, then he is a Rasa. No, he does not accept Krishna as God, but he has many other gods. Especially in our Hindu society, the Mayavadi philosopher say that everyone is God. How everyone can be God? If everyone is God, then what is the big deal?
Thank you. Now, in the next verse, Krishna will speak about his mudas. He will say, whatever they will want to achieve will be baffled. Whatever they want to achieve. Moga so moga karmano, moga jnana vishetasa. Weer. Moga samoga karmano, moga jnana vishetasa. Rakshasi mashrim sheva pragati moinim shvitaha. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by the demoniac and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. So in the purport, there are many devotees who assume themselves to be in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, but at heart they do not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the absolute truth. For them, the fruit of devotional service of going back to Godhead will never be tasted. That's a warning. The last line of the purport here. So, people cheer at Krishna because they are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. their destiny is solely to take birth after birth in the species of atheistic and demoniac life. Perpetually, their real knowledge will remain under delusion, and gradually they will regress to the darkest region of creation. So Krishna will affirm that in the 16th chapter of the Gita, the destination of the demoniac. So here, verses where the right Krishna will say he's an ordinary man, they will remain in delusion, healthy, regress to the darkness region of creation, and whether they be advanced in pious activities or cultivation of knowledge. But we have many quotes here that, this is here the last quote that is about Mahatma Gandhi. So, who wants to read it?
Moga karmana means fruitless, baffled. Whatever they do, they will find it frustrating. Gandhi was a great worker for national emancipation. In the end, he was so disgusted with the attitude of his people, he used to cover his ears to block out the noise of the thousands of people gathered by Mahatma Gandhi ki jai. The poor man could not even sleep. As soon as there was a rumor that Mahatma Gandhi was coming to the 5,000 people gathered by Gandhi ki jai. At the last stage of his life, he could not sleep due to the shouting. He was so disgusted that the very morning when he was assassinated, he said to his secretary, "I am so disgusted, I wish to die." His very words were published in the newspaper. Now see, such a great worker, but still he is baffled. And what to speak of others. So, Moga Karmana. Unless we become Krishna conscious, then all our activities will be frustrated. Moga Jnana. Jnana means research and knowledge, philosophical speculation. Do some research work and find out whether or not Krishna is God. Then your research work will be worthwhile. But without any objective, what is the use of the research? It's like thousands of years of idle speculation.
Thank you. What's your name again? Okay. Jagannath Sharan. Thank you, Jagannath Sharan. Good. So that's a warning that if we want to do things without Krishna, it will all be baffled. And that's the reality. That now Krishna in the next verse speaks about the Mahatma. Who is really a Mahatma? That Mahatmas tu mam parta devim praktimashrita vajantyananya manaso yatva bhutadim apyayam. O son of Pita, those who are not deluded, the great souls are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. So if we surrender to Krishna, we become a Mahatma. When we become a Mahatma, we come under the protection of the Devi Prakriti. The Devi Prakriti in Nectar of Devotion means taking shelter of Srimati Radharani. That if we perform devotional service means following in the footsteps of Srimati Radharani. Then you are contacting the spiritual energy. that so in the purport here, Mahatmas the Mahaparta, the first sign of a Mahatma is already situated in the divine nature, is situated in the spiritual nature. He's not under control of material nature. That so a Mahatma is not a politician. No, a Mahatma is a pure devotee who is taking shelter of Krishna. And unless you become a pure devotee, whatever you do will be baffled. Previous verse. That, so Sri Krishna at once becomes freed from the control. When we surrender to Krishna, at once becomes freed from the control of material nature. So if we perform devotional service, we are under the spiritual energy. And we are free from the modes of material nature. It means we should be, devotional service means serving with devotion. If we have that devotion, we serve with that devotion, become free of the modes of material nature. That, therefore, the Pandavas, they were not suffering. They were freed from the modes of material nature. That their apparent suffering, yeah. And what's the proof they were not suffering? One who really suffers and is under the modes of material nature is going to lament. They never lamented. They never said to Krishna, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, why are we suffering? No, they knew it's the will of the Lord that they were not under material nature. So being marginal potency, as soon as living entity is freed from the control of material nature, is put under the guidance of the spiritual nature. The guidance of the spiritual nature. That we are guided by the spiritual nature from within by Krishna and from without by the spiritual master. The Mahatma does not divert his attention to anything outside of Krishna. They are simply attracted, yeah, they are not attracted by the four-armed form of Mahavishnu, but they become attracted to the original form, the two-armed form of Krishna. But that's a very nice verse that that's 14, and we have a quote. Can I read a quote of 13, 14? 14. I will read the quote. But Janti means he's always engaged in my service. That is Mahatma. Laziness is not Bhakti. There must be activity. If someone says, I'll chant sitting down, who will notice? I'll doze and people will think I'm chanting. That this kind of cheating will not do. For those who are interested in Krishna consciousness, it is clearly stated that they should chant 16 rounds every day. You are not Haridas Thakur. You are not able to chant all day and night. Although it is a lofty ideal, it is something which at present you cannot do. 16 rounds of japa is a minimum requirement, and that takes no more than 2 hours. That leaves 22 hours to spend in Krishna's service. That is required for progress in Krishna consciousness. This is upasati. The work is there for you. Just like Arjuna, fighting is his duty. That is also Krishna consciousness. Yudyasva mam anushmara. Krishna said, you chant, you remember me. At the same time, fight, Yudyasva mam anushmara. He did not say simply fight or simply chant, because in the material world that is not possible. Therefore, we must chant, and at the same time, we have to work to continue this movement. The movement requires a lot of energy. That so Mahatma means chanting and doing the needful to serve Krishna and his pure devotee. So by surrendering to Krishna, that a Mahatma always works under the protection of Krishna's internal potency, Deva Prakriti. But now he surrenders. But what does a Mahatma do? What are his activities? What does it mean, surrender? Srila Prabhupada explains chanting and doing service. But Krishna makes very clear in the next verse what a Mahatma does. Yes, he's always chanting. Satatam kirtayantamam yatanta sadhita vata namyan samamnatyam nityayukta upashyate. Yes. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So the Mahatma cannot be manufactured by rubber stamping. By rubber stamping an ordinary man. Yeah, that was something. Anyway, that I will come back to that. But 3 things are mentioned here. A Mahatma is one who is constantly engaged with body, mind, and words, especially in glorifying Krishna. And he has determination to achieve the association of the Lord in the spiritual world, and therefore is following strictly all the rules and regulations, such as fasting on Ekadashi. Anyone in any position anywhere in the world can be engaged in the simple and enjoyable process of devotional service and also become a Mahatma. So these 3 points are made by Srila Prabhupada. So the first point, his symptoms are described here. Mahatma is always engaged in chanting the glories of Krishna, the personality of Godhead, and he has no other business. So further, a Mahatma is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then further in the purport, such a Mahatma has firm determination to achieve at the ultimate end the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in any of the 5 transcendental stages. That at the end, as described in the 2nd verse, not only is his devotional service easy, but it can be performed in a happy mood. One does not need to undergo any severe penance and austerity. He can live this life in devotional service guided by an expert spiritual master, and in any position, either as a householder or a sannyasi or a brahmachari, in any position, anywhere in the world, he can perform devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus become actually a Mahatma, a great soul. It's not limited. It's not limited by any material thing that we can perform devotional service everywhere, at every moment. So text 15. Jnana chahena sapyanye yayanto mamupashte katvana bauda vishvatumkam. Others who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, as diverse in many and in the universal form. So that's another class of man, Krishna mentioned here. In this verse, he mentions 3 kinds of persons who worship Krishna indirectly. That those who worship themselves as a Supreme Lord, that's indirect. or those who worship a concocted form of the Lord, such as the demigods, and those who worship the universal form. And Srila Prabhupada discusses these three in the purport. And he mentions these three forms here. And now in text 16, verse text. So these three types of worshippers described here will worship Krishna indirectly. They are actually unknowingly worship Krishna, because Krishna is Adideva, Adibhuta, and Brahman. So he's also the demigods. Is the universe, is Brahman. Yes. Now we go to text 16. Here, Krishna, text 16. Am Katur, Am Jahya, Spadaham, Am Ausadam, Mantram, Am Eva Yam, Amachniram, Am Utam. But it is I who am the ritual, I the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestor, the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire of the offering. The Vedic sacrifice known as Jyotistoma is also Krishna and is also the Mahajahya mentioned in the Smriti. The oblations offered to the Pitraloka or the sacrifice performed to please Pitraloka consider the drug, kind of drug, in the form of clarified butter. And that is also Krishna. The mantras chanting in this connection are also Krishna. The mantras chant, and many other commodities made with milk products for offering in the sacrifice are also Krishna. The fire is also Krishna because fire is one of the 5 material elements and is therefore claimed as the separate energy of Krishna. So it's all Krishna. In other words, the Vedic sacrifice recommended in the Karma Kanda division of the Vedas are in total also Krishna. Or in other words, those who are engaged in rendering devotional service to Krishna are to be understood to be have performed also all the sacrifice recommended in the Vedas. Yes. And then Krishna says, I'm the father, the Pita of the universe. Text 17. Pitamasya charata matadata pitama petyam pavatam omkara peksamaya churevasa. I'm the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I'm the object of knowledge, the purifier of the syllable Om. I'm also the Rig, the Sama, and the Yajur Vedas. Now, we have a quote on that. Srila Prabhupada speaks on that. Can someone read the quote? Now he says, Pitam Asya Jarata.
Now he says, Taham Asya Jagatam. I'm the father of this material world. How does he become the father? What is the definition of father? A father is one who gives the seed. Then he says, Mata, and the mother also. What is the definition of mother? Mother receives the seed from the father and the child is born. Similarly, this material energy is the mother. We obtain this body from our mother. So this material covering is the mother and am the spiritual spark of the seed. And part of Supreme, the material energy is also the energy of the father and am the spiritual spark.
and also a part of Supreme. So he's my father and mother. Oh wow.
Yeah. So that is our real father, it's Krishna. Thank you. Yeah. So, okay. Now 18. Gatirbakhta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Saranam Srit Prabha Palaya Stanam Nidanam Vichamapyam. I'm the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I'm the creation and the annihilation, the base of everything, the resting place, and the eternal seat. That is 18. Yeah. Yeah. So in the purpose, Srila Prabhupada writes at the end that Krishna is the ultimate goal of shelter, and therefore one should take shelter of Krishna, either for protection or for annihilation of his distress. And further, since Krishna is the source of our generation, or the Supreme Father, no one can be a better friend than Krishna, nor can anyone be a better well-wisher. And then text 19, the last verse, Tapam yaham am varsham Nishrami uchichami sa amritam seva mityusha satasakshava saham arjunam. O Arjuna, I give heed and I withhold and send forth the rain. I'm immortality. I'm also death personified. Both spirit and matter are in me. So in the purport, it said, by analyzing all these different energies of Krishna, one can ascertain that for Krishna there is no distinction between matter or spirit. In other words, he's both matter and spirit. In the advanced stage of Krishna consciousness, one therefore makes no such distinction. He sees only Krishna in everything. He sees the spirit and Krishna in everything. So, this is this section. Next section this afternoon, that Krishna will speak about demigod worship. That demigod worshippers make a mistake. They neglect the supreme enjoyer, and therefore their worship is improper. They fall down. But devotees of Krishna are different. They are protected by Krishna, and Krishna helps him. That Krishna accepts his devotees' offerings in devotion, and then Krishna, in verse 26, in the next section, will describe pure devotional service. And after that, Krishna will advise Arjuna, perform this karmarpanam, offer your fruits and all activities to me. And then Krishna says, oh, the super soul, I'm equal to everyone, but I'm a friend to my devotee. And he says then, my devotee, Sadhureva Samantavya, is also always a sadhu, even if sometimes accidentally he falls down, still he remains a sadhu. So he gives shelter to anyone, regardless of birth or position or gender. He concludes by giving the most confidential knowledge of Krishna consciousness, Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto. So that we will hear this afternoon is a preview. Thank you very much. That Grantara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Gauni